Very delicious, one of my favourite foods. I think mainly I prefer just for the flavour, but whether it is nutritious, I don't know. I think you can have some Chinese food that seems oily in some restaurants, but generally if it's a good, well-prepared Chinese food, then it's not so oily, no.
I think Chinese food is absolutely delicious. I think the flavours are very sweet and savoury, and I think nutrition-wise, I think there's a lot of protein in it, and it's quite healthy.
It's very nice.
Very healthy.
No, it's not oily. No.
Oily.
No.
Very healthy to eat the meat and rice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sweet and sour pork is very nice. You see, it's got a tang to it.
It's bad. It's good, no? The taste, the flavor, and it's mixed with many things, and I think it's healthy.
I think it's great and very healthy. I work in Japanese restaurants, so I know a lot about Chinese food and all the Oriental food, and I know that it's low in chemicals, so it's really very healthy and natural, and most of it is organic, so it's very healthy. It's a complete different culture. Taste, texture, different ingredients, different way of cooking.
There's a lot of variety to it. It's very different and unique, and they have different styles and stuff. It's very healthy. There's hardly any fats and oils, and they use a lot of soy sauce, I noticed as well. It's very healthy. Western food is mainly fast foods and fatty foods, whereas with Chinese food you have a lot of fish, and it's very good for your health. Like, I love Chinese foods. I've got 2 or 3 Chinese friends, and they're really close to me, so I'm quite familiar with it.
Well, tasty. Yeah, I like it. Well, depends. If it's cooked, freshly, and I think it could be healthy. But in my place, you get Chinese food, just warm it up and that's it. And I don't like that one. And this can't be healthy.
We love it. Generally quite spicy. Sometimes a bit too salty, but salty, but very nice. Yes, it is healthy.
What do I think? I think it's good food. Yeah, it's a lot of variety and a lot of very spicy food. Sometimes sweet. So when it's well cooked, so it's fine. It's good. But and that's all.
I really like. I think it's very good. It's different from I'm from Brazil, so the Chinese food is very different. It's another culture, and it's very tasty. Yeah, probably is. I've heard that it is healthy. I'm not sure. The fish, it's hot, it's raw. The rice is better. And it's not too much like fried. It's all nature. That's the main differences.
We have 2 concepts we need to clear. One is food, and one is culture. Now, obviously, there is in China, there is because geographic kind of position. So the China have a various food, such as rice is one of the major grain, and here. Because the land is sort of climate is much colder, so don't have a rice. So therefore, geographically, they're different food. So one different food must be very easy to understand because different place. But talking about the culture of the food, so that's another very important concept, is how people sort of are using the food or using those food as a food. So it's in a diet. So that's a very much different. So of course. And simply, Chinese food culture is much more sort of related with Chinese culture, is a part of a Chinese culture, indeed, including not only food, but also the what we call them, the food not only as a nutrition, but also as a medicine, as something to balance the body, and then also, of course, as a pleasure, as a sort of as of tradition. So this is a Chinese culture into food. But Western food culture, some of them have similarly, because Western food, when we talk about Western food in general, because this is a kind of big concept, including Italian, French, Spanish or English, all these food. So the Western food have their own culture, but because the two culture in terms of philosophy, in terms of religions, in terms of the approach to the health are differently. So the Western culture or the food culture are also very different because they are more follow so-called scientific view and the more sort of pleasures view rather than sort of food as a medicine, as a diet. This is a problem to how much people really understand Chinese food. Obviously, if you go to like most of the towns in UK, I'm sure I believe almost every town there's a Chinese takeaway or shop, some sort of restaurants there. So many of the restaurants serve Chinese food for the customers of local people. And because the local people like, for example, sweet sour pork, all these kind of things, and fried and fatty food, of course, they are no good to me as a proper Chinese man, because I don't think that's the really represent of Chinese food. So therefore, those kind of restaurant or takeaway serve those kind of food in some ways. Yes, it is fatty and not good. If you eat too much, take too much, of course it will cause obesity or diabetes or other heart disease. So that's one of the opinions that I do agree. But of course, that's not, in my opinion, a real Chinese food. So the real Chinese food, which is mostly simple, much more nutritious, lots of vegetables, protein. So those food are more healthy. So therefore, so second opinion, Chinese food are really healthy ones. I think that's also right. So that's why, as a Chinese man, and I often take my English or British friends go to Chinese restaurant. They say, "Oh, I never know you can order food like that. Food so healthy and so good." But again, it depends on where your standing point. So, and do you really understand Chinese food? Because when we talk about Chinese food, there's so vast food we're covering. For example, we have a very spicy Sichuan food. We have a very sort of a healthy steamed like Cantonese food, or to very salty or Pekingese food. So the food are very different. So yes, some of the food in China I think is very healthy. Some food are not so healthy, and indeed there is even in China there are lots of lately a lot of new sort of obesities cases and diabetes, and children get fatter and bigger, and lots of them indeed due to the food, but it's not due to Chinese food. In fact, McDonald's, sort of a Pizza Hut in China is booming. Every year they open hundreds of restaurants. Instead of UK, they're shrinking, but here in China it's booming. So all the Chinese kids go to those restaurants. So therefore, of course, they will get bigger and fatter and obesity or heart disease. Real Chinese food culture is a part of Chinese whole culture. So in Chinese culture, as I'm a Chinese doctor, we have a similar culture to the food, because this is a part of the Chinese whole philosophy was involved in the food. So therefore, such as what you mentioned, yin yang, the food. In fact, it is one of the Chinese culture embedded in the food. So indeed, it is very important, because that's exactly Western people can't understand. Because same food, for example, eat protein, such as let's say fish. So we have a fish or shellfish, but in Chinese medicine, in Chinese culture, we say the shellfish is very hot and damp. Normal white fish is cooling. So for example, if somebody have a problem with the skin in this country, there are lots of people, children especially, suffer from eczema, which is a type of a skin conditions, very itching, scratching, all these problems. In Chinese medicine, we considering this eczema is a heat or hot conditions. So because basically those people are very hot, they cannot stand hot, they're very hot in themselves, they can't wear too many clothes. So if those people, we say in Western medicine, if the protein is good for them, so therefore should be all the proteins equally good for them. So fish from white fish or from the shellfish. But in Chinese medicine, we said those people can only eat white fish because they're cooler in terms of we call it nature, or we call it yin. But if you eat them shellfish, they're more hotter, so they call them yang, more fire-ish. So if too much shellfish, you will see they become more itching, more scratching, but same protein. So that's why the Chinese medicine or Chinese food philosophy or the culture such as yin and yang are very useful guide for Chinese diet.